All hail the leak gods because they are kind to us today, and they've been kind to us this past week. So to get you guys caught up, Arcade1up leaks have been coming hot and heavy. And to date, as far as I can tell, I think they've all been from a catalog that Arcade1up was shopping out to retailers to get them excited about new titles, new cabinets that they could stock on their shelves. But they were coming from an Arcade1up leaks email account. And I don't know who runs this email account. All I know is that the leaks they've shown so far have seemed to be pretty legit. There are a lot of theories floating out there. One theory that I tend to like quite a bit is that this is actually Arcade1up doing this to build hype. Could be possible. These are very controlled leaks. They're not giving us all the information. There's no evidence that we've seen every single Arcade1up that's coming out later this year, other than that big old catalog list we saw from Randy's Records, but that I believe was 100% an unintentional leak. But other than that, the info keeps coming from whoever this anonymous tipster is. Again, guys, this could be fake, especially this leak. We have no photographic evidence. This is not corroborated by that Randy's Record leak. I just happen to put a lot of stock into this because this leaker previously did give us those images of Tron and everything else. And then we saw that, well, actually, those were cross-referenced by Randy's Records database, that they are going to be real titles. So it is possible, though, and this does happen. People might give you a few truths and then sneak in a lie, but the truths were there to make the lie look legit. So if this is bogus, it's bogus. But I got to tell you guys what it is, and I think there's a good chance this is real. And I happen to know another company other than Arcade1up is working on something similar, so this does not surprise me. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But first, let's look at this email. Wouldn't it be interesting if Arcade1up was working with a certain company we all know and love to create an original game, one that reaches all generations? Wouldn't it be interesting if they had a game that only they could use and that has never been seen before? Wouldn't it be interesting if I knew? Okay, so again, anonymous tipster. So I did respond to that email and just asked, hey, you got any more info? And hilariously, here's what we got in response. Oh, I have lots. In due time, mustache man. So this guy clearly watches everyone on YouTube. And by the way, guys, I'm not the only one getting this info. Aside from Arcade1up, again, there is another arcade company who I have on good authority. And I can't tell you which company, can't tell you what they're working on. And you guys know these projects can get canceled, but I have on good authority that they are working on some original game type things that you'll be able to ultimately buy from the company, and it'll be exclusive to that company's arcade. So, you know, take that for what it is. I'm only bringing it up because I think that this is a logical endpoint for these arcade makers. If they're going to continue to sell retro titles, well, there are only so many retro titles. At the same time, there are legitimate high-quality game studios like Dotemu or Dotemu. I still don't know how to pronounce that. But the guys behind Shredder's Revenge, the guys behind Streets of Rage 4, a ton of other games, they do good work. These teams are out there. They can create original titles based on intellectual property that we all love and do justice to it and span generations. And that's what this sounds like. What if it reaches all generations? Well, Streets of Rage 4 reaches all generations. If you played Streets of Rage on the Sega Genesis, then you probably are into Streets of Rage 4, but there are a lot of people that never played it or are too young to have played it, and they still love Streets of Rage 4. So I think, and I've been saying this for at least a year, we are going to see these modern retro-style games playable on arcade. And in fact, iArcade is the first to do this with Retromania. Now, I expected it from iArcade because they've got a more powerful chipset that's more aligned with a modern cell phone where you could play these games to begin with, supporting a game like Streets of Rage 4, and I don't think that's on phone, but just using it as an example, to iArcade is going to be a lot easier than porting it to Arcade1up, who famously uses pretty cheap chipsets. Well, this is a little different. They're going to a developer, allegedly, and they're cultivating a brand new game. It'd be easy to do that. There are so many wonderful retro titles that don't have modern incarnations. This is the next well that will be mined, I believe. And I think we're going to see modern versions of some of these old games. Now, there have been murmurs that Shredder's Revenge, the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game, is going to be on that new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cabinet. I don't personally believe that, basically for two reasons. But This leak, if this is true, suggests that it might be real. Because if they're working on chipsets that can run a modern game and they're going to sell those in their arcades, why couldn't they do it in a TMNT cabinet? Well, here's why I think they wouldn't. Number one, if they were doing it, it would not have the Turtles in Time artwork on the side panel. It would have the new Shredder's Revenge artwork, I believe. I could be wrong about that. But if they're going to do Shredder's Revenge, that means they're going to spend a crap load of money to Dotemu, to get the game ported to their arcade. They're going to probably spend a lot of money on that license. And they're going to have to put in a much more powerful chipset to run it. Much more powerful than what they're using to emulate those old school 90s TMNT titles. If they do all that work, I think they're going to make it the marquee title. They're clearly not. Instead, the new TMNT cabinet seems to be anchoring to Turtles in Time. Now, it would be a good reason to re-release a TMNT cabinet. Again, I just don't think it's real. Nothing I've seen looks like a good evidence that that rumor is anything other than someone's imagination. Happy to be wrong on this, just giving you my hot take. But if they're going to be doing an original game from scratch that's exclusive to Arcade1up, it's reintroducing the monopoly of Arcade1up. When they launched in 2018, they didn't have competition. I can about guarantee you guys, they're scrambling right now to, well, go back to having no competition. What do you think the light gun and the racing cabinets are about? Not just because we want to buy those cabinets, but because currently the other arcade makers cannot compete with them. So they're selling Outrun, and you don't have anywhere else to play an official arcade racing game that is from a home arcade company. If they can get a library of exclusive content, then they're going to be building those competitive walls back up, and you're going to have to come to Arcade1up for this title if it's a good title. Potentially huge news, but we know new titles from scratch take a while to build. So if they're working on this now, and if they just started recently, it's going to be a couple years probably before this hits. But it would show Arcade1up really believes in their future. And I, again, would expect companies like iArcade to get into this. I would expect AtGames to get into this. Any company that has the money to do it is ultimately going to have to get into exclusive content. And it can't just be licensed content because there's just only so much of that. So let's hear from you guys. What do you think? Is this legit? Are we going to get some kind of original game? What's it going to be? Is it going to be a new Contra or something? I mean, I don't know. I almost don't want to speculate about what title it could be because it could be literally anything, or it could be a new title from scratch. But I tend to think it'll be a sequel to an older game because Arcade1up's like their existing IP, and existing games are existing IP. Hit the like button if you enjoy the video and you like hearing about these leaks, and I'll talk to you soon. Hey, consider hitting that join button to support the channel, and thanks so much for watching.